Oh, this is gonna be crazy. That was great. Alright, hello everyone, and welcome today to another episode of Spraynpray1000's Verdict, starring me, Spraynpray1000, as I review new games that, have just recently come out, and that I've done playthroughs on. Okay, so today we are actually going to jump into a rather interesting review in a similar vein to Devil May Cry, which was actually the first verdict I ever did, Devil May Cry 2013, and that we're going to be talking about another reboot today. And obviously, you know from the title, today we are going to be talking about Tomb Raider, the 2013 reboot. Basically, for those of you who don't know what Tomb Raider has been a long-standing series of games since like the 1990s, 1996 or 7, I believe the first one was released, featuring the character Lara Croft, who is actually now a very iconic character, in these action-adventure kind of movies. Lara Croft is, as the name suggests, a female, and on top of that, the only reason I really bring this up is because she is regarded as one of the most iconic women in gaming. As you know, most video games tend to have, male-oriented action and male-oriented, it's made for males in mind. Well, that's not saying Lara Croft and Tomb Raider isn't, but it's, most of these games tend to have, very masculine protagonists, and Lara Croft was really one of the first women to have a major role in, like, a really popular franchise, alongside, like, Zelda and, Samus from Metroid, and all these, maybe one or two other people, and it has led to some controversy, as some people were, basically describe her as a sex icon, or that her character caters more towards, like, male fantasies of a very, very strong-willed woman, and that kind of stuff. And I kind of joked around with the name Tomb Raider. In fact, the raw names of all my different videos were named Womb Raider. Actually, there's a good story behind that, but I'll save that for another time, even though it's never been more appropriate right now. And, basically, some people have said, that kind of overshadows the potential of Tomb Raider. That, they focus too much on the fact that, yeah, we have a woman here, and, she has boobs. And, she's doing all this, acrobatic stuff, killing people and whatnot. And, they're kind of, that's kind of why Tomb Raider in itself has received a lot of critical acclaim, not necessarily a lot of controversy. Tomb Raider is definitely a very long established franchise. Definitely before, Uncharted, there was always Tomb Raider. And so now, basically, it came to light like a year or two ago that they were going to start making a reboot of this franchise. Obviously, I of course was skeptical because, I'd seen what they'd done with Lara Croft and, with all these games. And basically they just, while the games weren't bad, they kind of, again, focused too much on the fact that, yeah, this is a girl and she has boobs. And, here's like a couple hours of boobies. And I just thought that was definitely not one way that you should definitely market your game. I thought that was a pretty stupid idea for them to kind of focus on that over, better gameplay aspects and whatnot. And when they announced this reboot, I said, oh, well, here's a chance for the franchise to redeem itself, to, take a right step in a new direction. And boy, oh boy, was I very much impressed with this game. So let's get down into it. Tomb Raider 2013. Basically, the previous Lara Croft games have been, focusing on Lara Croft and, her exploits, and she's a well-established Tomb Raider as and a hunter of treasures. And basically, Tomb Raider 2013 takes a completely different twist. It casts Lara Croft in the light of a young woman, you know, who is an archaeologist, you know, does study ancient history, but however, she's not, you know, the gritty, experienced explorer that she soon becomes. And in fact, a lot of Tomb Raiders, you know, Tomb Raider 2013, I have to keep saying that so I don't, you know, mistake it with the whole franchise. A lot of Tomb Raider 2013 is spent, you know, basically telling the story from, you know, the eyes of a woman who's desperate to survive, and she's, you know, pulling out all the stops. She's, you know, doing stuff she never thought she could have. And for the most part, I think they brought that atmosphere, Crystal Dynamics, they took that atmosphere and they did really well with it. There's definitely a lot of parts that are very touching. A lot of parts that, you know, are very, I'm not sure how to put it. Like, they're very, very gritty, okay? Like, you can see her develop from this scared teenage, well, not really teenage, but this scared young woman into, not, I wouldn't say, you know, an expert killing machine, but, you know, definitely a survivor, as, you know, the game totes itself, survivor, and hashtag reborn, as, you know, all the advertisements go. She definitely changes over the course of the story. Her dialogue changes. She's more experienced, all the while maintaining her basic knowledge and, you know, all the stuff she learned about, you know, archaeology and all that other stuff. So for setting wise, and I don't know what, actually what the, well, I'm sorry, I just noticed someone's been in my room again messing with stuff they shouldn't have, but regardless of that, setting wise, they definitely did a good job of that. I think that they nailed it, and that, if I had to give a score just for, you know, trying to put that emphasis as, you know, toting this as a complete reboot, unlike the Devil May Cry reboot where they rehash Dante into a character that nobody really liked and wasn't really well accepted. I think they pulled off Lara Croft very nicely. I would give it a 9.5 out of 10, the way they just, you know, characterized her as a person, you know, that she's not a one-man army, or a one-woman army would it be, you know, just bulldozing through everyone who stands in her path. She's definitely, you know, more of a scared person. She's definitely, you know, susceptible to dying. And yeah, I think they did pretty well with that. As for the nudity, well, actually not even nudity, just, you know, the sexuality, they basically eliminated that. There's very little to none. I could not, you know, see how someone could view this in, you know, a very suggestive light, other than, you know, just viewing it, oh, I'm playing as a woman instead of a guy, you know. So that's in that regard, at least they didn't focus on that, okay? And I believe that right there separates this game from the remainder of the franchise. Not saying that, you know, actually, what am I about to say? Am I about to praise Leisure Suit Larry? although that game does deserve some praise, it's not for what I actually was about to say. So definitely they did a good job with the characterization. Now the story of the game is, as I said, more of a reboot and origin story. Here you have Lara Croft on a ship with a whole bunch of other explorers and archaeologists and people who are, you know, trained to study this kind of stuff. And they're setting out for, you know, ancient kingdoms. And one of the kingdoms that they're looking for is actually the kingdom of Yamatai, which is a long-lost Japanese kingdom that, you know, the island has never been found and never been explored. And ultimately they end up getting stuck on this island. They end up getting beached on this island. Their boat breaks down and literally capsizes off the shore. And Laura gets separated from her friends, and her first goal is to initially find her way back to her friends. And, you know, the game progresses from there. The story gets a bit deeper, and from all the logs you find, either written, you know, during World War II or from ancient times, and, you know, all the different treasures that you find also add to the story. And the collectibles are definitely worth finding because they're their stories unto themselves and they're interesting. Just that, you know, it takes the story in a different direction than what you would initially think of. Oh boy, we need to get off this island and just, you know, get the hell out of here. It changes to, you know, something's not right. It's almost as though we can't leave for some unknown reason. If we try, we will die. And now for the story, I think the story was pretty well done. I mean, yeah, there was some obvious twists that you could see coming. You know, it's kind of like a movie style twists. I mean, for the most part, some of them are pretty interesting. And I mean, then again, Tomb Raider is a successful franchise like Resident Evil, although I consider both, you know, that's off topic. It is a successful movie franchise for the most part, although I don't remember the last Tomb Raider movie, which means they're probably done with them. But it's definitely good to know that the story kept me it was interesting. It kept me hooked, and I would definitely want to see how all the characters panned out and what was going to happen with that. There's definitely a lot of twists, a lot of unique characters that you meet. The cult, all the mystery race of a. Well, you see, I don't want to spoil it, so I'm just gonna kind of keep it hush hush. But there's definitely a lot of twists in there, and the side quests also. The side quests also are kind of fit in. Now, I'm going to get to that in a minute because that's one of my major complaints about the game. Although it's not that major, it's just one of my points that I didn't like. So, now, as for the gameplay of Tomb Raider is a third-person, basically a third-person shooter. You view Laura from a third person. Laura has a whole bunch, 4 different ranged weapons that she can use. Obviously, there's the bow that you've been seeing so much of. The classic Tomb Raider pistol returns. Then you also have an assault rifle, although it's a ranged rifle. And then you also have a shotgun that you get later on. And Laura actually has a whole bunch of interesting tools that she can use throughout the game. And just, not only are they used for combat, in fact, combat is, you don't even get your melee ability until pretty later in the game. Laura doesn't have an ability to fight back at close range other than to dodge away and, shoot with her bow or, get to a ranged position where she can actually, use long range or, hopefully you can use long range at short range. And Laura basically, she gets abilities. The game actually has an RPG setting as well that helps you level up either your normal abilities or your items and how you use them. So, for example, you get a climbing axe that you can use to get around the environment. You also get something that lets you climb ropes really quickly. You get the ability to shoot rope arrows that then can be used to either pull you towards stuff or create ropes that you can climb across. And definitely, without a doubt, I have to say that they were constantly adding new tools. Even one of the guns is used as a tool for the environment. Like, you use it to shoot down stuff and shoot down barricades that you would otherwise be unable to do. So, definitely, without a doubt, they put a lot of thought into spacing out the upgrades so you're not constantly getting new stuff every 5 minutes like a lot of games do. You're definitely, they kind of keep the gameplay fresh by saying, okay, well, now it's been a while since you got your last upgrade. Here, have a new one, and you get to play around with this one. And in addition to some of the old ones as well. Now, the other thing I want to praise is the enemy AI is actually really good. In fact, at some parts, it's pretty challenging. The enemies, communicate with each other. They vocally call out. And, well, obviously, I'm not talking about any, like, animals or anything you have to fight. I'm talking about the cult members. They'll actually communicate. They'll use teamwork. They'll try and, surround you, and, they won't just, like, generically walk forward at you, although some of them will, obviously, if they're frontliners, but for the most part, they will not do that. And, you're not going to be engaged in, like, first-person shooter style, like, 5-minute shootouts or anything like that. Enemies will try and get a better shot at you. They'll try to flank. They'll throw stuff at you. They'll try and get you to move out of cover. And I just thought that the enemy AI was very good. Moving on to what was also very good was the physics engine. And I'm not just talking about one aspect of the physics engine. I'm just talking about the game engine in general was amazing. The water, the fire, the gravity, all that was just really well done. I have to say, I'm very much impressed with what they did with this game in terms of the physics. Like, just looking at the water and looking at, the flame physics and how they, water and fire interacting, that, I just have to say, was probably one of my favorite moments. In addition to the graphics of the game being very good, without a doubt, just playing this game and looking at just looking at the game is very visually impressive. So, excuse me, I'm going to take a sip really quick. So, without a doubt, that's probably one of the better, one of the strong points of the game is the fact that it's very well developed gameplay wise, and it's very well developed story wise. All right, now let's talk about what I didn't like so much. What I didn't like so much were, one, the fact that there are tombs in the game. Obviously, this is Tomb Raider. If there were no tombs, it obviously wouldn't be much of a Tomb Raider game now, would it? Here's the thing, though. The tombs, they're basically optional, out of the way. They're not mandatory. There's not even a single mandatory tomb that I can think of off the top of my head. And they're not really much of tombs either. They're basically one-room puzzles. And not saying that the puzzles aren't, going to make you think for a bit, but they're basically one-room puzzles. And what happens is you solve that one puzzle, you climb up to something, then there's a treasure chest, and you basically take something out of it, like a map or something, and then you leave. And then that's basically it for the tomb. So while there's a good sense of exploration in the game, the tombs are pretty short, sweet, and easy to complete. And it's just, like, for a game that, the name is fucking Tomb Raider, I would expect that the tombs would be a little bit more in-depth, and there would be maybe a few more of them that were more challenging than just one-room puzzles that can be very quickly solved, and you can move on to the next one. I was just hoping that there would be a little bit more meat to the tomb part of it. Additionally, I'm not going to get into multiplayer yet. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, graphics were pretty good. The graphics were good, of course. I don't know why. Just all Square Enix games have good graphics. That's all I'm going to say about that. Soundtrack was, I think, pretty good. It was alright. There weren't any pieces that really stood out for me, like, Metal Gear Rising. I think Metal Gear Rising is going to take the Soundtrack of the Year award, but that's for another time. I think that definitely, without a doubt, overall, this game was pretty good. So, I'm trying to think of what else I didn't like. Now, what I didn't like was that they had a lot of other aspects in the game, such as the hunting aspect, that really kind of felt downplayed. There's only one part of the game where it's mandatory to hunt, and then after that, there's no real reward for hunting. Like, it's just, something you can do. And maybe there is a reward, but I'm not aware of it, and it doesn't seem like it'll affect the game other than, give you experience to level up. Now, what I did like is the fact that you can fast travel to a lot of these different places. I think that definitely, helps out. You can fast travel between several points. It takes out all the travel time. Also, another thing that I have to point out is, a lot of the puzzles, not the puzzles, a lot of times during the game, I don't know what it was, but during the second day of me playing the game would just freeze and, lock up for a few seconds. Not even when I was earning achievements, which is a problem with Xbox recently. Whenever you play Xbox, sometimes your console will just lock up if you get an achievement with some games. Other games it's perfectly fine, it unlocks naturally. But some games will freeze up for 3 or 4 seconds before resuming, and Tomb Raider just seemed to do that just for no reason. Even where I was not getting an achievement, so I wasn't sure what was up with that. But all in all, I think that the single player is definitely worth your time. It's definitely worth checking out if you're looking for a survival action game that's going to keep you pretty gripped. Now, just know this game is a bit more darker and gruesome than its previous, Lara Croft games. But as I said, they wanted to go for the realistic aspect. They wanted to change Lara Croft. They wanted to make this, almost believable in a sense. Were not for, some of the stuff that happens later in the story. They want this game to be believable. Like, you would actually believe that Lara Croft is, a changed person by this. And, add to that atmosphere. So, single player, I'd probably give a pretty decent score. I'd give it a 90 out of 100. Now, multiplayer is a little bit less. It's similar to Aliens versus, not Aliens versus Predator, Aliens Colonial Marines, in that there's 4 game modes. Now, one thing that was very weird is that they decided to pretty much put some matches were 3v3, and I was just, at one point I'm like, why only 3v3? 3v3 is not, that does not lead to very, chaotic, hectic, interesting matches, between two teams when you only have 6 people in total in the game. You look at other games like Battlefield, which have, 12 on 12, which I can understand might be too much for some games. They don't want to make big maps, because then again, a lot of the maps in some of those other big games, are terrible because they're just big, and that's kind of it. And, COD is, the usual 6v6 or 4v4, sometimes 3v3 if you're doing, like, face-off or something. And it's just, I felt that for Tomb Raider, they should have, like, done what Halo does, because it feels like they the maps would be better, the multiplayer would be better if it was more like 5v5, and if there were more people in a game. Because every match I join, they only put 3 people on each team. Also, similar to Halo, they have a lot of power weapons, like a lot of weapons you pick up that basically rape, and they're just ridiculously overpowered. And they just kind of, shift the entire balance of the game really to one team's favor. Although it is possible to kill people because, the health isn't that great. If someone grabs it and they know what they're doing, they can definitely, change the tide of a game. And, game matches have multiple rounds, and, there's a level up system. So really, multiplayer is pretty well, like, again, it's another well thought out part of the game. Now, what I didn't like is the fact that you can't switch shoulders in multiplayer, and this is another problem I had with Gears of War. Why the fuck can I not switch shoulders? It basically all comes down to the right-hand advantage, which is something I've been, when I was, learning Gears of War 2 from my friend Instant Retreat, we talked about that a lot. The idea that if someone's turning a corner and, it's easier for them to see you because they're looking over the right shoulder by default, and, you would have to move your character out further because the body on the screen is going to block what would be your shot. And, you have to take that extra second to, adjust your aim. You're going to be screwed in that extra second. That's going to be the kiss of death for you. And, it was like you could switch it in multiplayer, and the crouching was, in single player you could switch shoulders automatic just by clicking left stick while aimed in. And, you would crouch automatically by pushing up against, cover when there were enemies around, which is another good thing. I also like that. Now, the other thing is, the other thing that I didn't like was, in multiplayer, you have to crouch to do that, but that's not the other thing I didn't like. The other thing I didn't like is that a lot of the multiplayer seems to be, very camp heavy. There's no radar, so there's no, it's basically visually whatever you can see is what you see coming towards you, and that's pretty much it. They're pretty. So yeah, now I forget what I was saying, which is just fantastic. I don't remember. So I guess I'll wrap this up then, because I don't remember what I was thinking about because I got interrupted. So in any event, what would I give Tomb Raider 2013 on a scale of 100? I would probably give Tomb Raider 2013 an 85 out of 100, because I believe that while there's a lot of strong potential from the single player, the multiplayer is kind of lackluster. It's kind of not, while there is some unique ideas, I don't feel that they were executed well enough, and the multiplayer is just could basically be hit a few more times into a smoother, more round shape. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm Spraynpray1000. I guess I'm going to wrap this up now. And we'll see you next time for either Sniper Ghost Warrior or Gears of War Judgment. So stay tuned for another verdict. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you check this game out, because it's actually, without a doubt, one of the more interesting and original games of the year. So thanks for watching. Welcome to Womb Raider. Womb Raider. And I immediately get myself killed. I thought that was the way down. Whoops. I find that fucking funny as hell, man. I thought there was something over there. See, there's like a little flag, like you could jump over there. It's a trap. Oh my god, that's so funny. So you jump over there and die instantly. It's the tutorial. They're not trying to trick me yet.